And we are live on Fireside Chats. I am your host, John Crump. I am the Virginia Director for Gun Owners of America, Joey, right here. I am also a writer for AmmoLand.com, and I'm the host of this little show. Happy Wednesday, everyone out there on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. It looks like my comments might be broken again, but I'm seeing the comments come across on my monitor. So if you want to ask a question and you don't get a direct answer, it's probably because I got to switch back and forth. But I am joined tonight by a man who is running for Congress in Texas. He is at a Starbucks, so it might be kind of noisy, but just bear with us. He is a retired special operator, also was in the CIA, did a lot of really cool stuff, and now he wants to go ahead and help the state of Texas out. And his name is Casey Gray. Casey, tell us a little bit about your background. Let's just start out. Let's go back to when you were in the military. Then we'll work up through the campaign stuff. You were in special operations, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I actually know my friend Steve, who was friends with you. Did you meet him in special operations or?
Steve Brignoli?
Yeah.
Yes, he was a special forces captain, and that's where I met Steve.
You were in 10th group?
No, so I was a naval special warfare operator. And I came in the military in 1999, and we had a joint base. So they were at 1st to the 10th in Stuttgart, Germany, and I was there. We have Naval Special Warfare Unit 2. So we have Unit 2, and then we have 1st to the 10th, and so we all began working there previous to the Iraq War starting.
That's really cool. It seems like Steve knows everyone.
It is. He's that guy that when I need to know somebody or ask a question to verify, Steve literally knows every single guy in Naval Special Warfare and DC. He's definitely he's the living telephone book.
Yeah, he also knows some Delta Force guys and everyone else. I've had some Delta Force guys that he's hooked me up with on the show as well in the past, which is kind of crazy. I was trying to recruit for a TV show, and I was like, I need some special operators, some like tier 1 guys. He's like, okay, here's some guys, contact them. I was like, okay, that was easy.
Yes, sir.
So you're in Texas now, and before we get into that, you also work with the CIA.
Yes, sir.
I know you probably can't say too much about that stuff.
Yeah, we have to go through a thing called a PRB to get permission. It's very limited, but I have permission to state that I was an employee there.
Yeah, I come from the NSA side of things.
Okay.
So I know how that is.
Yeah, it's not really that it's so cool we can't tell you. It's really that it's so boring that you would just be embarrassed. I would be.
Exactly. They're like, oh, you work for the NSA. It's like, yeah, what can you tell me about that? I'm like, not much. They're like, oh, you must have seen some really cool stuff. And I'm like, no, not really.
Yeah, the common question that people ask me is if I've been to Groom Lake and I've seen aliens. And I say it's quite possible. Just perpetuate the myth.
Yeah, just don't say anything.
Yeah.
They're all around us.
The little gray men do exist.
Yeah. So you're running for Congress in Texas.
Yes, sir.
What made you decide you wanted to run for Congress?
This is an interesting answer. So in 2011, I was actually an employee with the CIA deployed to Iraq, and I got recalled to active duty with 19 Special Forces Group. Deployed. I was in a CH-47 crash. Had multiple injuries. My back, broken arms, legs, crushed the whole left side of my skull in, shattered my jaw, lost all my teeth. Had to have 24 reconstructive surgeries. So knees replaced, shoulders, 6 shoulder reconstructions, 4 hip surgeries, hips replaced, hamstrings reattached, clavicles redone, facial reconstruction with cadaver jaws put in. And I have a severe traumatic brain injury. I can't smell or taste anything or see out of my left eye. And left side of my face is paralyzed. The worst part is the severe traumatic brain injury because I don't have any emotion or empathy. So I'm like a straightforward, all the fluff is cut out, no sugar coating. And people will often confuse that with me being an a-hole, but it truly is not. I'm just straightforward and I don't give you any room there for error. If you want to know an answer to a question, I'll answer it for you. But don't ever ask a question you don't want the answer to.
Well, that's probably what we need in Congress right now.
100% agree. And we've had that. We had Trey Gowdy. He was amazing. And probably the saddest day of my adult life was the day I heard that Trey Gowdy was leaving Congress.
I talked to him and I asked him why he left Congress, and he's just like, I got tired of the bullshit.
Well, I think more specifically, he was for term limits. And he spoke of term limits. And I believe he's a man of his word. And he term limited himself as a man of his word, which I 100% agree with. And it just is painful when you are for term limits and you see such a great man leave.
Yeah, it's like a Washington thing. Washington, they wanted him to stay on, and he was like, I believe that people should do their duty, serve in the government, and then go back to civilian life.
Well, the Constitution specifically says you will come from the people and return to the people.
Yeah, so, and Washington and all those guys actually believe that. I think we kind of lost that with career politicians. We have a lot of career politicians.
Yeah, and I have a post on my page right now if you go to CaseyGrayTX11.com and to my district issues and to term limits, you'll read that if we had term limits in place, we'd lose, I think, 227 congressmen and senators immediately.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you're not supposed to be a career politician. That's just not supposed to happen. And we have tons of them, and they come in and they leave Congress a lot richer than what they came in at. No one leaves Congress. That's
scary. That's a scary part. You have to look at. They make $173,000 a year, and they come in with $17,000 in their bank account, and they leave with $17 million. And they only served, 8-9 years. How do you break that? How do you reconcile that? How do they make all that money? That's rhetorical. I can tell you how they do it.
Yeah.
But there's a video on my website as well that talks about this. And, I posted about Nancy Pelosi. And specifically, the committee that she sits on, there was a visa bill coming up that was going to harm credit card companies. And it would limit the amount of transaction fees they charge their customers for late payments and such. Well, mysteriously, Nancy Pelosi was allowed to buy into an IPO for Visa. She bought in, sold the stock 2 days later, and made millions of dollars. And you want to guess what happened to that bill that came into the committee?
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it disappeared.
Yeah.
So that to a normal citizen would be insider trading. And you would go to prison for it. But those same laws don't apply to congressmen, so it's legal for her to do it.
Would you agree that all laws that applies to the people should apply to the people in Congress?
So what you're asking me is if I believe in the Constitution. Yes.
Sure, I know the answer.
We need constitutional rights that are fair. Nobody is above the law. Nobody. So when anything that applies to the citizen, congressmen are citizens. They are the same. You come from and return to the people. There should be no special laws or special health insurance or special programs for congressmen or congresswomen. And let's be specific because I think some people confuse this. When you say Congress, the Congress is made up of the House and Senate. Senators, there's 2 senators per state. They work with the state legislators to pass laws up for the state. Congressmen work for the people, the actual House of Representatives. They work for the constituents. So there's a balance of powers there. And, when we say congressmen, we're speaking of senators as well, and congresswomen like Pelosi. So, yes, I believe everything should be equal and fair, and we need to pass legislation for that. So, but I give an interesting analogy to people all the time. When you vote a congressman in and they make $173,000 a year, and then you ask them, you say, hey, we want to vote on term limit, so we need you to vote to cut your own paycheck. Once you start that, it's really tough once people are in office to do that. And
Well,
it just simply,
if you look at AOC, she was complaining that they don't get paid enough.
and this is my opinion, my humble opinion. Take a look at the great country of Texas. And we pay, yeah, you heard me right. I said country. In Texas,
Republic of Texas.
That's right. We pay our state senators and congressmen here, the state legislators, $600 a month. Is that kind of crazy to you? It literally costs them $500,000 to run for state office. They're in session every other year for 5 months for a measly $600 a month. I mean, these guys are working for the state for almost free. And then we have congressmen. If you average the breakdown of pay of $173,000, congressmen only work for 160 days on average out of the year. So that comes out to $1,000, a little over $1,000 a day, roughly, that they're making with their salary. That's what you get with military contracting, what you get with oil field workers. That's a lot of money. That's decent pay for living half the time there. And it's blasphemy that she says they need to make more, especially from a socialist like her.
Yeah, she I think might be primaried, or they might get rid of her district. She's causing like a lot of issues with the Democrats. She's not paying her dues. She's actively campaigning against constituent, people that are in office already.
Yep. And this is the problem is when you start talking about pay, we're there to represent the people, and you shouldn't be getting rich off this. The salary needs to be enough to sustain life in DC, and that's all it should be for. And if we focused on that, what it truly cost us to sustain there and represent the people, we'd have less people like Cortez going there to get rich. And that's what she's doing. She's going there to get rich off of people. And I like Donald Trump's plan, work for free. And I've talked about this within my district that I would do this job for free. And
yeah, you work for $1. You get paid $1 a year because he has to. By law, they have to pay him something.
Yeah, and I would do the same in my district because while I certainly could use the money, I have 5 kids and a wife. I would do the job for free because I don't want to run. I don't want to go to Congress, to be honest with you. You asked me earlier why I'm running for Congress. When I was in my helicopter crash, I was in the hospital and my pay got cut off with the military. Congressman Mike Conaway for the 11th district. He's an Army veteran. I contacted him over 100 times in two to 3 year time period. Never once, even to date, he has never contacted me back. He's never contacted my family, never wrote us a letter, nothing. He's completely ignored us. And how many wounded warriors do you think are in our district at any given time? I mean, it can't be more than 10. I mean, it's very low. And he simply, I don't like that people say you don't have time. Change that statement of telling people you don't have time and say you're not a priority. And I simply wasn't a priority to him. And when you don't make the men and women that serve your country a priority, that's an issue, especially when you're a representative for the people. So I wasn't important enough or a priority for my congressman to help or pay attention to, because there were certainly more important things than a wounded soldier.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. It seems like a lot of people in Congress in both parties work for themselves more than the people.
Absolutely. They work to get rich. They make deals under the tables. I mean, if you look at any congressman that's in office, and we're Republican, for instance, put your hand over their name and the term Republican and look at their voting record, and you'd be surprised to find that a majority of these guys vote very liberal to the left and Democrat almost. You wouldn't be able to tell if they're Republicans or Democrats. And, that's why in the great state of Texas here, we have the second most conservative district in the country with a 90 plus conservative district. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, but even our representative, Mike Conaway, if you cover up the name and Republican, over the last few years, he's really swung to the left. And that's a matter of being in Congress too long and making deals, and I understand it. You start off very conservative, then you have to make deals to get things passed. And one of his final deals that he passed was the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill was $1 trillion, and $750 billion of that went to welfare. And they removed the drug testing, they removed the work requirement, and they removed the means tested income. So you could walk into a welfare office, tell them that you're unemployed and you have $1 million in your checking account and you're getting welfare. It's a shame. It's, and people keep saying, oh, it's free money, just take it. Well, this takes you back to the Roman times where this quote originally came from, but it was actually Ben Franklin that made the statement that when people figure out they can vote themselves free money, it will herald the end of the republic. And this is what he's talking about. We're outspending the treasury by giving away quote unquote free money that we can't afford to be giving away like that.
So you wouldn't be for Bernie Sanders' plan?
I put a meme up on my Facebook page that has Bernie sitting there with his hand, and it says Bernie Sanders, when he figures out that he doesn't know blank about politics, and that's a fact. The guy has zero knowledge of politics, and he's a multi-millionaire that owns multiple homes and flies on private jets, and he says, "Do as I say, not as I do." And I like to call guys like him. He's a trans Democrat.
A trans Democrat. That's awesome.
He identifies as a Democrat, but he's truly a conservative Republican.
I got it.
Because he loves capitalism, but he does everything that's socialist out of his mouth. But he practices everything that is Republican and capitalism and free market. It's totally blows my mind. And I have two guys in my race that I call trans Republicans because they are truly Democrats that identify as Republicans. It's a sad thing.
Yeah, there was something I saw that was very interesting on the Bernie Sanders campaign page. I read his plan, right? And it includes college, free health care, free housing, guarantees everyone housing. It was like free everything.
I think that they call that prison.
Yeah. I don't know. I spent some time in Eastern Europe, and you can see the buildings that all look the same, and they all have these small little apartments in there, and that's where you got. It doesn't matter what you did. That's where you're going to live. They told you this is where you're going to live. This is a job you're going to do. Everything else. I think he really would do that. I mean, his praise of Castro was mind blowing.
That was shocking. And, I often tell people, my constituents, I say, we can vote ourselves into socialism, but we will bleed our way out of it. And that's true.
Yeah, there's an old saying that says you can vote yourself into communism, but the only way out is fight your way out or something like that.
And that's what I mean, bleed your way out. And that goes back to our founding fathers. The tree of liberty should be frequently watered with the blood of patriots and tyrants alike. And, that's a metaphorical statement, but we all understand what it means.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders' plan is just mind-blowingly dumb. I mean,
well, the shocking thing is the younger people, the crowd that hear his plan, and they truly believe. And I have conversations with these kind of people, and I explain to them, it's very simple. Let's break it down to a household budget. You got a family of four, you make $30,000 a year, and you lay out your expenses, and you realize you're spending $35,000 a year. What do? You cut $5,000 out of your budget real quick, or else your house gets repossessed. You'll be homeless. You won't be able to afford food. There's a lot of things happen. You go into huge credit card debt. When the government does that, they have a $30,000 budget. Well, the equivalency of the government doing it, they'd be spending about $800,000 on a $30,000 budget. And how do you reconcile that? And simply, we haven't, and that's what's led to our $1 trillion debt. We just keep outspending our growth. And, the only true way to fix that is to cut more of the 456 million regulatory agencies, like the Department of Education, the ATF. I mean, there's a lot of different organizations that overlap, and you cut all these places out, get all the bureaucracy out of it, and it's an instant cash savings technique. And I often tell people the closest thing to everlasting life that we have is the establishment of a new federal government agency, because they simply never go away.
They don't, and there's so much overlap, and a lot of them do the same exact things.
Yep, they do, and that's why I say redundancy. It's you got the governmental agencies that do the exact same thing, no difference, and we need to start cutting them and getting rid of them. And I often tell people, they want to talk about new laws. Like, I always get the question, when you're elected to Congress, what's the first thing you're going to legislate? And I tell them, well, as a conservative, you shouldn't be asking that question, because when you ask that question, you're saying, what's the first thing you're going to spend more money on? You should be saying, what's the first law you're going to repeal? What's the first government organization you're going to try to cut down on? What's the first, what are we going to start defunding? We should be talking about saving money, not enacting more rules and laws. We were established as a federalist government to maintain the borders and interstate disputes, not a nationalist government, which we've become. And we are a constitutional republic that should have a federalist, limited, small government with less regulations. That should be the real questions we're getting to. How do we get back to that? Which agencies do we cut? That's where we should be focused on.
Yeah, I like the ATF as a good starting point.
It is. I mean, look at the National Firearms Act. Why did the National Firearms Act come into place? And the rhetorical answer to that is that the gangsters of Chicago in the day had the Browning automatic rifle. And it was unfair that they had a Second Amendment right. And, given I'm not advocating for violence at all, but once you made the NFA now restricted everything. And today it's restricting suppressors. It's restricting fully automatic rifles, short barrel rifles. There's so many things that constitutionally it's tearing it apart. And you have to remember, the Second Amendment was not for hunting. The Second Amendment was to protect the citizens from tyranny of the government. And I always tell people the government should always fear the citizen. The citizen should never fear the government. And they do now, because the government has the upper hand. And we need to release that. We need to abolish the NFA. And I always get the question, well, would you want to pass the Hearing Protection Act? The answer is yes. But if we abolish the NFA, the Hearing Protection Act doesn't need to be passed, because suppressors will be legal. Well, and
you've been to Europe, right?
I've lived there, yes.
Okay. Well, when they go out shooting, it is common courtesy to use a suppressor.
Yeah. When you go,
it's not any special rules or anything. Just buy it.
And if you go to a shooting range like we did in Stuttgart, Germany, we had the old Panzer tank ranges that were baffled for the tanks. They were like, a suppressor for tank rounds when they're shooting. And we would shoot on them. I mean, it's just common sense. It's a muffler for a car. When people talk about limiting suppressors, I'm like, well, why don't we just go ahead and take all the mufflers off of cars and let them roar down the street while we're at it? It makes no sense.
I think that there's a huge misconception of what suppressors do.
Oh, of course, that's Hollywood. Hollywood makes it, the pew, pew, pew is all quiet. No one hears it. And, the fact is it just reduces the decibels. There's no such thing as a silencer. It's suppressing the noise. And that's, I've talked to Josh Waldron about that at Silencer Co. about why he named it Silencer Co. Why didn't you name it Suppressor Co? Or, just joking around.
Yeah.
Because it seems like the military, we always, we call them suppressors, and we call gun magazines. The civilian side often says silencers and clips. And I'm like, hey, I don't see an M1A1 there.
Clips are that's just bugs.
Me too. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, I think the silencer thing comes into play because on the original patent, the guy called it a silencer. So, it's not really a silencer. It's still. I was trying to explain that to someone. They're like, "Well, you can't hear it." I'm like, I was like a silencer. Let's say I put a silencer on my Glock or a suppressor on my Glock, whatever you want to call it. You put it on my Glock. It's still, when I fire it, it's still going to have the same sound as a jumbo jet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not.
You're talking about even with subsonic ammo, it's still a loud noise.
Yeah, it's like it's not.
Of course, it's safer, but it definitely isn't silence.
Yeah, it protects my ears. I mean, it's not meant to be like an assassin's weapon. Mythbusters actually on suppressors. If you haven't seen it, you should pick it up.
I've seen it.
Yeah. And I sent that to a Moms Demand Action person who's like the president of the local chapter. Yeah. And she was like, "Well, I don't agree with them." I'm like, "What are you?" It's not an opinion they're showing you. They're showing you the actual science behind it.
Exactly.
Like,
and that's
you can't just choose facts like logic and reason and just throw it away because you don't feel like it's right. So you're against the NFA?
100%.
That's good. Warren and Sanders both want to out semi-automatic rifles and put all the semi-automatic rifles that people have onto the NFA. I have 100 ARs, so $200 a pop, that would be $200,000. It would be crazy amount of money.
Yeah, it's simply
$20,000. It's not.
Yeah. Well, and this is why gun owners, why we have these different organizations to fight against that. And what the Democrats are great at is chipping away little things. And yeah, we have to be careful as Republicans because we're often absolutionists, and we say we won't compromise unless we get 100%. And we need to keep fighting and chipping away at their rights as well. What they've taken, we need to get them back slowly. And that's why I'm a big fan of the Hearing Protection Act. Is that's one right we should be taking back, and it's it's feasible. Something we should look at. A big picture thing is forget about that. Let's get serious about constitutional items. Let's repeal the NFA while we have if we get a majority in the House this year, we got the presidency, we got the Supreme Court, we got the Ninth Circuit Court. Let's get to business. Let's get gun owners their rights back. Let's fix the Constitution. Let's make the Second Amendment great again.
Yeah. I do think that they have a great chance of taking back this coming election.
Yeah, we have a really good chance. I mean, look, Trump just added 2 more Republican judges to the Ninth Circuit Court. We got a great ruling. I believe it was the Fifth Circuit. I could be wrong, but the Fifth Circuit agreed with Trump that we could actually take the money away from.
Yeah.
Give me a second. For some reason, I can't see it, but so they could take away money from sanctuary cities. We're on a roll here, and you got to look at the Supreme Court. We're going to add another Republican to the Supreme Court because Ginsburg's not going to live through another term of Trump, and that's something to not that I want to celebrate death by any means, but she is not healthy. She's getting older. She's making poor decisions, and I think she's holding out, hoping Trump gets beaten. But at the end of the day, we need another Republican there. And,
the Democrat side of the stuff is dumpster fire.
Gosh, did you see Sotomayor's dissent letter that she wrote against Trump, and Trump, lawsuits asking about how this, she needs to recuse herself. And, at the end of the day, what needs to happen is the Supreme Court was not there to decide cases like we are right now. The Supreme Court was simply there to decide whether a case was constitutional or unconstitutional and push it back down. Because right now what we have is judicial advocacy through the Supreme Court. They're actually legislating law through decisions, through case law. And that's never what was intended. It really needs to get back to what it was intended for and push it back down to the court below it, whether it's constitutional or not.
Yeah, it seems like there is an issue with judicial supremacy where the judicial system takes all the power away from all the other branches of government.
Yep. Yeah, it has. It's almost become like a inner monarchy for our government. They take all the power and they make the decisions, and that wasn't the intent. It never was. So it's a dangerous slope because you have to realize, well, yeah, are we Republican leaning on there right now? Yeah, so it's in our favor. But just because it's in our favor right now doesn't mean that we should just say, well, because it's on our side, it's right. We should say, hey, while it's on our side, let's make it right. How do we correct it and prevent judicial advocacy?
Yeah, if some of the Democrats are talking about if they take back the White House to add more justices to turn
And
it
this
liberal.
this reminds me of that guy when Trump ran. There was the viral video, him walking around saying, singing, sore losers, shut the, he's like walking through the street singing to the Democrats. And that's it. They're sore losers. And they want to try to level the playing field after they've lost. They can't do that. This simply can't happen. And they only want to change the rules when it isn't in their favor, like making, simple majorities in the House so that they can pass laws quickly while they have control in it. Things like that. If you're an American, that should scare you. That should truly scare you.
They basically killed the filibuster for judicial appointments, and once they did that, they opened up a can of worms because Donald Trump got elected, and now you don't need a supermajority to get these judges appointed. And they scream and cry about that, but it was actually them that passed that. That's on them.
Yeah, and that's what makes it dangerous. When you start breaking rules or changing rules like that, there's not always a silver lining in this. And for us, the silver lining was, yeah, they did it to us, but we benefited from it in the end as Republicans. And I hate to even say that as Republicans because it should be as a country, But man, we have such a divide with these inner city Democrats or social Democrats, if you will. And, they also want to repeal the complete electoral college because it's unfair to them that they don't get to make the rules.
Yeah, well, the electoral college is there for a reason, and it's doing what it's there to do. It's to protect the minority from the tyranny of the majority.
Exactly.
Make sure everyone has control. If they get rid of the electoral college, LA and New York is going to control everything.
Everything. Then the rural farmers of Texas, Montana, Kansas, they have no say. Their vote means nothing, and that's what we have to prevent.
Yeah. But do you think Donald Trump's going to win the next election?
Absolutely. I have no doubt.
Yeah, I think he will too. I think Bernie Sanders is going to get the nomination, and I can't see people voting for a socialist.
Yeah, and well, the crazy thing is, look at Bloomberg trying to buy this election right now, and he's the biggest anti-gun guy out there, and he's in fact has put in over $250,000 directly into my race, and into a Republican's account that's running in our race. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm from Virginia, so Bloomberg dumped a lot of money into Virginia, basically bought the state. We're fighting back, but a lot of tax laws are being passed.
Yeah, and what you have to realize in Virginia, I wrote an article on this. If you go to my website, to my news section, I wrote it about Virginia specifically. And Virginia, the reason that we lost to Democrats was because 46% of registered Republicans got out and voted, and 88% of registered Democrats got out and voted. We were simply outvoted because we are lazy Republicans. That's the problem. Those are facts. So I think what's going to happen, you're going to see in this next election cycle, we took a beating and people learned a hard lesson on that beating. And, in like a 2-week period, the Democrats passed like 8 gun laws. They attempted to make it illegal to go to a training range to train on firearms. They make it a class 5 felony. They outlawed SBRs, they outlawed suppressors. I
Oh,
think
they
what's going to happen. Yeah.
in Virginia, they
Yes.
tried. That failed.
Right. Oh, did it? Okay, I'm glad to hear that. I was unaware. I thought that they were successful in the SBR and the suppressor.
No, that failed because Scott Peterson, who's a Democratic senator in the state of Virginia, came out and said that
Are you still there?
I'm still here. Yeah, you didn't hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, he came out and said that it was seen lobby day, which when tens of thousands of people came to Richmond, and also all the sanctuary county movements, where 96% of the state is now sanctuary, 2A sanctuary. That directly influenced his decision, and other Democrats said the same thing.
Yeah, and I really hope, and I'm going to give a little shout out here to Scott Taylor, a former congressman from there in the state of Virginia that I served in the Navy with.
It's awesome.
So me and Scott are both Arab linguists for the military, both from Naval Special Warfare. And I highly would encourage all of your fans from Virginia to not only vote for Scott, but go out and walk the streets for Scott, block walk for him. Get on Facebook, tell everyone you know who Scott is, go vote for him. You need that man as a congressman for your state again.
I can tell you right now that's happening.
Okay, good. I talked to Scott, and, we have a small group of us, and we're, I'm 100% backer of his, and he's a good man, a good statesman, and a good patriot of this country.
Yeah, I would like to talk to him about maybe getting him a GOA endorsement as well.
Okay, I'll send him a text tomorrow.
Yeah, because I think that would be a good thing. I'm working on you, and Scott Taylor would be another good guy. You guys both are very, very strong on the Second Amendment,
and that's I don't think there's a word strong enough to describe what I am on the Second Amendment, but shall not be infringed means exactly in stone what it says.
Yeah,
and we need to. Without the Second Amendment, you have no other amendments. It is
I read your survey.
Okay. I'm very strong about it. I deeply get into this, which leads to red flag laws. A red flag law is a violation of your Second, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment. You have no due process with the red flag law. When people say that, I instantly go into the mode of, why are we even speaking of this? It shall not be infringed. There's no due process. It's unconstitutional. Anything that doesn't pass the constitutional litmus test immediately needs to be thrown away.
Yeah. I'm going to say there is due process. You get a hearing in a few weeks after they take your gun.
After you're already guilty. So there's a great show about this called Minority Report, or you want to get into Judge Dredd, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. It's like you have to go to court and prove yourself innocent. I was like, that's not due process. Right delayed is a right denied.
Exactly. And I hate when people say, the wheels of justice slowly grind on. You will get your day in court. And I'm like, no. You have misread the whole Constitution. You have a right to due process. You have to prove the guilt first. This gets into the Democrats and liberals. It's not has anything to do with guilt. It has an easy way to take weapons away. It's very quick. And, I don't know if people are aware of the 1968 Gun Control Act. And in the Gun Control Act, it talks about the CSA's Controlled Substance Act. And if you've ever used anything that's a CSA level 1 drug, you are banned for life from owning a firearm, transferring a firearm, purchasing one. If it says, and this is something scary for veterans, it says specifically in there, you got to go to USC Chapter 18, Parasection 9.2, G3, and it talks about the specific parasections of what causes you to lose those rights. And one is mental defectiveness, which they put PTSD as a disorder, which technically will disqualify millions of veterans from owning firearms. And I often tell veterans, I don't believe in PTSD. It should be called PTG, post-traumatic growth, because veterans went through a very, very stressful situation to protect our rights, including our Second Amendment one. And that stressful situation didn't make them a worse person. It made them a better person, because they're a better person that learned through that trauma and they grew mentally. They grew into something. They understand this, which many people don't. And what do they get rewarded for that? A restriction of their Second Amendment right that they went and fought for and bled for. That is an abomination.
Well,
That's something.
I think it also deal with mental issues that need to get help. It pushes them underground, and they're less likely to get help.
100%. And you talk to people all day long in the military. And me, I retired from the military. I personally do not have PTSD, and I've been tested for it. I don't have any issues, and but that doesn't mean some people don't. And I recognize that. I recognize their sacrifices, and that's why I advocate so strongly for them and what they fought for. This shall not be infringed. It didn't say shall not be infringed unless.
Yeah, and PTSD doesn't mean you're going to go out and go kill people or kill yourself. I have a friend who was a combat controller. He was basically Air Force Special Operations.
I know that.
Yeah. You know what it is. People out there don't know. They're the guys who go out with the other Special Operations forces and call in airstrikes. And he has PTSD.
Air commandos.
Yeah, basically, yeah. They're a tough son of a bitch, I'll tell you.
Yeah, of course. They're great. And, I got some great friends that are PJs, some great friends that are combat controllers, and amazing what they do. And, obviously, of Chapman, who just got the Medal of Honor up on Roberts Ridge. And look at that guy. He deserves 2 Medal of Honors. A true hero that fought to his death to save others. And you can't ask for more than that. There's no greater love.
If you haven't read about him, everyone should Google Chapman, Medal of Honor, and just put that in there. Every time they get the Medal of Honor, they write a little thing about him, what they did to deserve the Medal of Honor. His is just, it's a testament to bravery.
This is the first time in history that we have an actual video of a Medal of Honor event, and it is shocking. It is true American bravery, and that man was a hero. And I just am disappointed that it took us so long to reward him for the sacrifices he made for our country. But it just proves your point of what great men our air commandos are, the PJs and the combat controllers.
Well, my friend who was a combat controller, he has a PTSD, and he loves fire. He's not suicidal. He's not violent, but he does have PTSD. And a lot of people would like to see his guns being taken away because they think he's going to snap because of PTSD. And what I always try to tell people is the only indication of a person that is going to be violent is previous violence.
Yeah. And you got to keep in mind, you're talking about men like myself that for decades we've been trained in controlled aggression, and we know when and where to use violence and the appropriate level of violence. So for people to jump to this next conclusion, you take men their whole entire lives, their job was violence on behalf of America. And this is why I get back into post-traumatic growth. It is not a disorder. It's post-traumatic growth. These men have learned a lot. They've been through a lot, and they've come back and they're heroes to this country, and they deserve more than what's been offered. And we're talking about the detriments here to their sacrifices, which we have to elect men like me to Congress to protect them.
Yeah. He did 8 combat tours, and that's a lot of combat tours.
Yeah.
So but talks about dealing with the VA and everything, and how hard it is to deal with the VA.
It's an absolute nightmare, and an abomination of the VA. Every single time I go in, the first thing they ask me is, "Do you have any guns in your hand?"
Yeah.
Why do you think they're asking that?
Because they want to take them away.
Yeah, and the immediate default answer to that is no by everybody, because there is no yes answer to that, because that means your whole Second Amendment right stops when you say yes.
Exactly. Exactly. They look for any excuse to take away people's guns, and it's really disgusting.
They do, and this is a plan. Like I talked about, Democrats have a plan to slowly chip away and take away from our rights. And who's the population that's going to protect us? It's going to be the veterans. If anything happens, they're going to be the first line of defense, and they want to disarm the first line of defense. Not that I'm taking away from any civilian. I mean, you got to go back to World War I and II. Like, why didn't Japan invade the mainland? And the whole statement of they have a gun behind every blade of grass, and I'm proud of that. If it was constitutional, I would like to legislate that every single family has to own one gun per person in the home. But then again, that's unconstitutional to force people to do something. I would love for every single family to have 100 guns like yourself. That would be true excitement for me.
Yeah, I mean, one of my hobbies is building rifles, so I just build rifles.
And if you look at my favorite thing is I'm here in Texas running for Congress is people, if I'm in my truck, they go, "Hey, what's your stance on the Second Amendment?" And I was like, "You got a second to look in my truck?" Sure. I opened the door and I got a Salient gray AR-15 on the driver's side, and I have a Texas weapons system AK-47 on the passenger side, wedged between the seat and the console, and 2 pistols in there, and I'm carrying a pistol, and I'm like, ammunition, magazines on. There's AK on the right side, AR-15 on the left side, and multiple pistol mags, and they're like, "What do you use? Is this your range truck?" And I'm like, "No, this is Texas casual."
It's quicker to gather other than reload.
Exactly. Someone asked me about that. They were like, "What do you believe in constitutional carry?" And I'm like, "Look, I believe in constitutional carry in a nationwide law that allows for it if there is no requirement for registration. It's just true constitutional carry." And someone goes, "Well, would you open carry?" And I was like, "Personally, no. I don't like to open carry. I'd prefer to conceal carry, but that's like a T-shirt to me. That question is like a T-shirt. There's a different situation for every different kind of T-shirt, and depending on the situation is the T-shirt you wear. And in this situation, the gun and where it's concealed. So, I think there's a time and a place for open. I just haven't had many of them for my personal self.
So your opponent, what's his stance on it?
When you say opponent, my 9 Republican opponents, 1 Democrat opponent, 1 Libertarian opponent, and 1 independent opponent.
Yeah. But the guy that holds the position right now.
So it's quite funny. He's taken, I think $220,000 from the Democrat Party, one of them, and the other one has taken about $500,000 from Democrat leaked money. And these guys both take pictures with a double barrel shotgun, like they're going hunting for birds. And, you just look at finger placement on the trigger, the way they're holding the weapon, and you can tell these guys are so uncomfortable holding a weapon, like their palms are sweating. And that's like the key indicator right there. These guys aren't Second Amendment guys. These guys are, well, you should be able to have a gun as long as it's a musket kind of guys.
Yeah. It's like, let me bring up this picture here. Let me hold on for 1 second. Open the image in new tab. It's like this. This is what I think of those guys. Let me just share my screen. I think you get a kick out of it.
All right.
That is what a small picture, but
yeah, exactly.
That's the Obama shooting picture.
Yeah, or what about the one with Biden on the porch shooting a gun up in the air?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Biden. Just pull out a double barrel shotgun and shoot it up in the air. Or shoot it through the door. You also said shoot it through the door. I'm like,
yeah, what?
That's dangerous, man. You're gonna kill your family members that way.
It's like that. What's the guy's name from California, the state rep, with the ghost gun? And he's holding this is a ghost gun. He has no clue what it is. Talking about a clip that holds 500 rounds.
It shoots
You know,
30 rounds a second.
It's like, what is that? A GE, a Gatlin, a Gal 17 minigun?
Like 30 rounds a second. What are you talking about, man? But Biden also said last night that 130 million people have died in Houston since 2007. Like half the country. What?
Yeah, it blows my mind, just some of the stuff these guys say.
Yeah.
And you know, I've been asked what my solution for mass shootings is, and I tell them, well, we got a great solution. It's called constitutional carry in the Second Amendment. You arm more people, and you have more guys like myself. I'm a trainer from top to bottom, a weapons trainer. I have been for 20 years. And
20 years NRA.
You have guys like myself that are. I teach shooting classes, but I teach them for free. I don't charge people. You know, if people want to learn to be safer, I think it's an obligation as a gun owner. You know, I understand some people do this for a business, but like an obligation to share your knowledge and make everyone safer. And that's the great thing about our country is when we do this, you know, you have the civilian marksmanship program. You have tons of programs that do this, and guys like myself that are trainers that offer free safety training for women, children, for anybody that wants to get involved. And, you know, there's some organizations that I've learned about not too long ago that, you know, they're like for black gun owners, safe shooting. It just gun ownership. I love it.
Black guns matter. Good friend of mine. I was absolutely Friday. We GOA and Gun Owner Foundation, which is our political, our legislative, you know, arm, and Black Guns Matter have teamed up. I'm proud to say that I kind of organized it a little bit. We're funding Black Guns Matter to go into 10 inner cities, including Richmond, Birmingham, not Nashville, Memphis, Baltimore, Chicago, to teach responsible gun ownership, conflict resolution, and the importance of the Second Amendment and plus gun safety.
And I love that. You know, thank you for doing that. You're a true patriot, and that it makes my heart flutter a little bit, you know, and excitement. You know, I don't have emotion or empathy, but I do have the intellectual ability to love things like that.
Yeah, and I think it makes a big difference. John Blecko, who's the executive vice president of GOA, had a good point. He goes, once you teach people about the importance of the Second Amendment, they're going to stop voting for people who want to take away their guns.
Yeah, and that's why it's important. You know, we need to find good congressmen, and not politicians, but war fighters and statesmen that recognize, who have exercised this right, and who are willing to. I mean, not that I think there has to be a test, but look, I own multiple suppressors. I own multiple SBRs. You know, not that my tax stamp should be a credit to how gun loving I am, but I think it is. You know, when you meet someone and they say they own suppressors and SBRs, I would have a hard time believing that any of them are Democrats.
That is true. I got a bunch of suppressors and SBRs.
Yes, and I love taking people out to shoot who've never shot one, because the first time they shoot an SBR with a suppressor, I mean, the look of joy on their face that this exists. Or, you know, I have an Osprey for my 9mm. You throw that on there and let them go shoot it, and you know, they realize that I took my wife shooting, and first time she ever shot a gun, it was with a Cellulant blue pistol with a Osprey suppressor on it, and we were shooting frozen water bottles, and man, she had a blast. I mean, it was like the best thing she ever did. And now she's a huge gun nut. She can't wait to go. We're going to go hunt some axis deer here soon. And I'm excited for her. You know, I love introducing people to, when I say our way of life, the American way of life.
Yeah, it's the American way of life. It's the pro-liberty way of life.
Yeah, and that's, you know, I loved when you guys have your little insurrection of civil disobedience there in Virginia. We had a whole group of Texans that showed up.
Yeah,
And,
there were three buses. Three buses came from Texas.
and when you remember this, who was it that came to the aid of Texans in the siege of the Alamo? We talk about the man that made the comment to Congress. You may all go to hell, but I will be going to Texas. There's great history here of us supporting each other with Virginia, Texas. This is good things, and I'm just proud that we were able to send people from our state there, that they willingly came, voluntarily came, and that I think that shows pure, true unity of us as Americans. And people oftentimes they get in this psychological state where they say, oh, we're losing or it's all falling. And events like this, I have that video on my website on the news tab under the article. And there's a video, and there was I see John Voorhees say that was Davy Crockett. I was aware of that. I just was putting it out there. You talk about the mass amount of people there with guns, and these are every race you can imagine.
Every race, every religion.
Yeah, and I love the one guy. He had the 50 caliber rifle, and he's a little bit overweight. Everyone was kind of clowning on him. I was like, I love that man. He literally is exercising his Second Amendment right, and he gives no Fs. He's out there, and people love it. If you take away all the haters that make comments on the guy, I mean, he's carrying that huge, heavy rifle all day long to make a point. Not that he was taking it to use it. He made a point that no one else made, and no pun intended, the biggest point.
Yeah, I talked to him, and I was like, "Man, that's really cool." He was like, "Yeah, I thought it was a great idea until I started trying to walk around with it."
Yeah, but I get it. I've carried the 60 around. I've carried a 240 around, Mark 48, all that stuff in the military. I understand the weight, but the simple fact, look at the smiles on the people's faces that got to take pictures with them. That's like the true. That was like the true value of it. People had huge, happy smiles in the middle of what, that's not by any means, that event was very serious and could have kicked off a huge issue at any time. But look how peaceful it was.
It was very peaceful.
And, that's a constant thing I say, is an armed country is a peaceful country and a polite country.
Yeah, armed society is a polite society. There's actually a podcast called the Polite Society Podcast that's really good.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, it is true. When I was there, no one was causing trouble. Everyone was in a fairly good mood. There was no, they pitched that all these racists were going to come. I didn't see it.
Well, and look at FBI statistics for license to carry holders. Every 5 years, the FBI updates their studies on these things. And they recently came out. And license to carry holders in the United States commit less crimes than police officers.
Yeah,
let that sink in. How many police officers are there on that way offset level of LTC holders? I mean, it's like got to be 100 times more people.
Yeah.
And they commit less crimes. And think about it, when you or I are carrying a weapon concealed, the first thing that comes to your mind when something happens is not to react to it. It's calm, cool, collective, because you have a lot more to lose shall something happen. And I like that. I like that we put that into people and they're restrained. It's a great thing, in my opinion, that we give people that responsibility, and that's what makes us Americans. Other countries treat you like a child. They limit everything that people do in those countries. And here, we give people the full authority to be free, make decisions as an adult, a free citizen. And how you react, if you decide you're going to break a law, you're going to be punished. And most people, that's not on their mind. Their mind is being law-abiding citizens. protecting others. And it brings me back to the quote by Edmund Burke when he wrote a letter to Richard Mercer. I'm sorry, not Mercer. His name is Mercer, but I don't remember the first name. He said, the only thing necessary for evil to prevail is good men to do nothing. And in this case, we have a lot of good men with guns, which brings me to Jack Wilson in Texas. A good guy with a gun stopped a brutal murderer in a church with a single round. And I see him probably every 2 weeks at events, and humble guy, very professional. But he's the average Joe here in Texas.
Yeah,
Everyone carries a gun.
Look at my other. I have a friend named Stephen Williford from Texas. I'm not sure if you've heard that name before.
No. Could you tell me about him?
Yeah, he's the guy in Southern Springs, Texas, that ran out with no shoes on, grabbed his AR, and stopped.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so he's a friend of mine. He's on, and him and Jack are just amazing people.
Yeah, that's every time I see Jack, I walk up to him because you can just see it in his eyes. And, like, look, I'm tired because I sleep like 3 hours a night on the campaign trail. It's insane. But I talk to Jack, and you can see, the pain in his eyes from taking a life.
Yeah.
But I walk up to him every time, and he didn't serve in the military or anything that I'm aware of. But I walk up to him and I tell him, I was like, Jack, every time I see you, I'm going to come up to you and do this. Thank you for what you've done for this country. Thank you for being a responsible gun owner. And please never believe that you did anything wrong. You are a hero to every single one of us. And I'm going to do this every time until I see you, till the day I die. You're a true hero. Thank you for what you've done. And the look in his eyes is, he never gloats in it. He's just a humble servant that was at the right place in the right time. And, we need more Jack Wilsons out there.
Yeah. Just to let you know, the people counter you see up there, it's not working. It's not right.
Oh, I can't even see one.
Yeah, it always stays at like 2. We have a lot more than 2. But
yeah, I see a bunch of people responding over here.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for coming on. I know you have a lot to do, and Starbucks.
Yes, sir.
Once again, people can find more about you at caseygraytx.11.com, and good luck in your campaign. Anything else you want to say before I let you go?
I just honestly, I want to thank every single gun owner, every single person that's taking time to watch this, and specifically your organization. You guys do something that is you don't have to do. You don't have to spend your time, your money, your effort to protect us, and you take it on as a second or possibly third job in your life to sit here with me in a Starbucks of all places. We're talking about guns in a Starbucks. It's what irony, but I like it because we're taking the fight to them right here.
Yeah. I drink Defender coffee.
Exactly. I'm here for the internet, but nonetheless, what you guys do, you fight for our freedom. You fight specifically on a daily basis, and I'm honored to even be on your show because, while I've served the country in a capacity, you're serving the country every single day, every single podcast, every single minute that you're on. And I look up to you guys and thank you for it.
We're closing out.
You have a good day and good luck on your campaign trail. Everyone go and visit his campaign. I'll put up the website one more time. It's up. Check them out. It's also in the description. All right. Thank you so much, Casey.
Thank you, too.
And good luck.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, everyone. That was Casey Gray, candidate for Congress. You can visit him at CaseyGrayTX.11. John Voorhees wants to know what day I'm going to be on Guns and Gadgets. I'll be on Monday at, I think, 5 o'clock on Guns and Gadgets. I'll be on Hank Strange show on Friday at 7 p.m. So check me out on that. It's going to be cool. And once again, you can always support me on Patreon, patreon.com John Crump, or the other one, which is like a super chat, one-time donation, paypal.me/John CC. Remember, you can join Gun Owners of America and get a little discount. And that is right there. 25% off Gun Owners of America. Everyone should join. If you need help getting a Second Amendment sanctuary started, check out gunowners.org/SASO. That's Second Amendment Sanctuary Ordinance. It's pretty damn cool. But yeah, I can definitely do that for you, John. And other than that, if you're in Virginia, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/GOA-Virginia. All right, that is it for me. Go ahead and buy a t-shirt or Black Swan Tactical, drink some Defender coffee, and have a freaking awesome day. You can visit me on Facebook, of course. And that is it for me. I am out of here. We're only going to be doing 2 shows this week because of family obligations and the Hank String show. And also, one more thing. Fauquier County, there is a constitutional rally that's going to... my little screen here is a little freaking wrinkle, whatever. A constitutional rally. I will be speaking there. Jordan Stein of GOA will be speaking there, and there should be a bunch of other people. Amanda Chase, a bunch of people that's going to be speaking there. So that should be pretty cool. And I hope to see you all out there. If you all are out there in Fauquier County and you come out there, come see me. I'm going to have a lot of GOA flag. We're going to have a table and everything. So you can come meet me and the other guys from GOA and pick up some really cool flag. All right. My name is John Crump. This is my show, Fireside Chats, and I am out of here.